Like, I know the technology is dated, but honestly, it definitely does hold up in its own kind of way. Folks, as you know, we love superhero movies, we love it all. When it comes to comic book films, we celebrate anything we can get our grubby little fanboy hands on. So why is it then that there seems to be one comic book movie that gets forgotten despite being produced by Disney and currently streamable on Disney+? I'm talking, of course, about Disney's The Rocketeer, which is technically like the first Disney superhero movie ever. This is a movie that fires on all cylinders, from great casting, great acting, great writing, and of course great special effects for the time. So join me on today's journey when we figure out what the f happened to Disney's The Rocketeer. The story of The Rocketeer begins with the comic book series created by Dave Stevens in 1982. The character, Cliff Seckard, was a loving homage to the pulp serials of the 1930s and 40s, particularly King of the Rocketmen. With its sleek retro-futuristic aesthetic and a sense of old-school adventure, the comic quickly gained a dedicated following. Enter Disney in the late 1980s, looking to expand its live-action film portfolio beyond animated musicals and family comedies. They saw The Rocketeer as their answer to Indiana Jones, another period action adventure rooted in classic storytelling. Who better to tackle this project than Joe Johnston, who was fresh off of the visual effects work on Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark and Star Wars. With his deep understanding of period design, action filmmaking, and an appreciation for nostalgia, Johnston seemed like the perfect fit. Johnston's love for aviation and retro aesthetics permeates through The Rocketeer. The film is visually stunning, with beautiful Art Deco production design, thrilling aerial sequences, and a clear reference for Hollywood's golden age. The cinematography by Hiro Narita captures a world where gangsters, Nazis, and eccentric inventors collide in a technicolor dreamscape of adventure.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah. A little luck.
Casting was another strength of this film, but finding the leads wasn't so easy. Kevin Costner and Matthew Modine were the first ones considered. Unfortunately, neither were available, so Disney sought after Dennis Quaid, Kurt Russell, Bill Paxton, Emilio Estevez, and even Johnny Depp. All either declined or didn't make the cut. Billy Campbell, who wasn't someone that sat well with Disney, took on the role as Cliff Seckard. Johnston convinced the executives that he brought just the right amount of charm and earnestness to the role. He wasn't familiar with the comics, but read them soon after being cast. He even conquered his fear of flying. However, Campbell was doubled for almost all of the flying sequences in conventional aircraft. Jennifer Connelly played his love interest, Jenny Blake, a character loosely based on Betty Page in the comics but reimagined as an aspiring actress. Before Timothy Dalton would chew up the scenery as Neville Sinclair, the role was offered to Jeremy Irons. I mean, just imagine if Simon Gruber got his hands on this part.
I'm a soldier, not a monster, even though I sometimes work for monsters.
Neville was a dashing yet sinister Hollywood star who was secretly a Nazi spy, and rumored to be based on Errol Flynn. Supporting actors like Alan Arkin and the lovable mechanic Peavy and Paul Sorvino as a no-nonsense mob boss just added to the film's rich world building.
I may not make an honest buck, but I'm 100% American. And I don't work for no two-bit Nazi. Let it go.
There were a few issues in the making of process. One of the most difficult technical challenges was portraying the Rocketeer's flight sequences in a way that felt realistic while maintaining the film's pulp-inspired tone. Industrial Light and Magic, led by visual effects supervisor Ken Ralston, took on the task, utilizing a combination of wire work, miniatures, rear projection, and go-motion animation, a technique that added motion blur to traditional stop-motion figures, making movement look more fluid. For close-up shots, Billy Campbell, who played Cliff, was often suspended by wires in front of blue screens, while full-body flying shots featured a mannequin attached to a motorized rig. Some aerial shot sequences even incorporated real stunt performers hanging from planes mid-flight, blending practical and visual effects fairly seamlessly. However, perfecting these sequences was painstaking, required reshoots and extensive post-production work to ensure its believability. Filming was not without its difficulties. difficulties, whether complications frequently disrupted production, particularly during the extensive airfield sequences shot in Santa Maria, California, where high winds and unexpected rains led to scheduling delays. The aerial stunts were also fraught with danger. Several vintage planes, including a restored GB Racer, were used for in-flight scenes, but their unpredictable handling made for nerve-wracking moments, and stunt coordinator Billy Joe Hooker had to navigate these challenges while ensuring the safety of the performers. Another persistent issue stemmed from the Rocketeer's costume design. While the helmet was iconic, it severely limited Campbell's visibility, making dynamic action scenes very difficult. Several modifications were made, but Campbell still struggled with movement, particularly during fight scenes. His jetpack, while mostly a prop, was also cumbersome, often requiring quick fixes between takes due to minor malfunctions or its weight throwing off Campbell's balance. Beyond technical hurdles, the production also faced creative struggles with Disney executives. The studio initially envisioned the Rocketeer as a potential family-friendly blockbuster akin to Indiana Jones, but there were concerns about its darker, more mature elements. This led to disputes over tone, with Disney requesting minor rewrites and reshoots to make the film more appealing to younger audiences. Some of these changes, such as softening certain violent moments and adjusting character interactions, frustrated Johnston and the crew, though they ultimately did manage to retain much of the comic's charm. Before we continue with our video, here's a reminder to click the Store tab on any of our JoBlo channels and browse our collection of the latest and freshest designs in our merch store. Go get you some. Despite positive early buzz, The Rocketeer flopped at the box office. Releasing on June 21st, 1991, it faced stiff competition from Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and The Naked Gun 2.5. With a budget of $40 million, the film only managed to earn about $46 million domestically. There were several reasons for this disappointing performance. First, Disney's marketing was all over the place. The studio seemed unsure whether to position The Rocketeer as a kids movie, a nostalgia-fueled period piece for adults, or a straight-up action movie. The poster, featuring a beautifully stylized Art Deco design, was visually striking but didn't clearly communicate the film's tone or story. The Rocketeer was released under Disney's main label rather than Touchstone Pictures, which at the time handled more mature fare like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and we all know how that turned out.
But tell me, Eddie, is that a rabbit in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
One of the biggest frustrations for fans is Disney's baffling neglect of The Rocketeer when it came to home media. The film has only seen bare-bones DVD and Blu-ray releases, with no substantial special features, no director's commentary, no behind-the-scenes documentaries, nothing. Given Joe Johnston's later success with Marvel and the film's cult status, it's bizarre that Disney has never capitalized on it with a definitive collector's edition. Some speculate that Disney views The Rocketeer as a middling property, not quite successful enough to warrant a true anniversary edition, but not obscure enough to completely forget. Others suggest rights issues or simple corporate disinterest. Whatever the reason actually is, it is definitely a disservice to the movie.
Where is it?
Where's what?
The rocket.
When the Rocketeer video game released in 1991 for the NES, SNES, and DOS, it was a far cry from the thrilling adventure that fans expected. Rather than delivering the fast-paced, jetpack-fueled action of the film, the game frustrated players with clunky controls, unfair difficulty spikes, and questionable design choices. I dare you to get past this very frustrating first level. One of the biggest issues was the jetpack mechanics, or the lack thereof. Instead of seamlessly soaring through the skies, players were bogged down by sluggish movement and awkward platforming sections that made precise jumps feel nearly impossible. While the game's visuals captured some of the film's Art Deco aesthetic, it ultimately failed to deliver an enjoyable experience, leaving many fans disappointed. Don't believe us? Check out the Angry Video Game Nerds episode on the game. He gets how much this game aggravated us growing up.
This might be the worst Super Nintendo game I ever played. It just started and I can't even figure out what to do.
Needless to say, The Rocketeer deserves better. It was ahead of its time, arriving just before the superhero boom that would have made it a major franchise contender. Its craftsmanship, adventurous spirit, and timeless appeal should have secured it a more prominent place in the Disney pantheon, but instead, it remains an overlooked gem, beloved by those who remember it, but frustratingly underappreciated by the studio that owns it. Despite its initial failure, The Rocketeer has built a devoted cult following over the years. The film found a second life on home video, and fans continue to celebrate its old school charm, breathtaking aerial sequences, and loving tribute to classic Hollywood. It also helped solidify Joe Johnston's career, leading to a future with directing efforts like Jumanji, October Sky, and Captain America: The First Avenger, a film that bears more than a passing resemblance to The Rocketeer in tone and style. Look, Joe Johnston gave us a thrilling, heartfelt adventure that captured the essence of old school heroism. Maybe one day, Disney will finally give The Rocketeer the love that it truly deserves. And until then, we're gonna keep strapping on our rocket packs and dreaming of what could have been.
See you around, Rocketeer. Oh, don't ever fly her without this.
Thank you for clicking on our video, everybody. If you like what you saw here, please make sure you like the video and subscribe and share with your friends who like this sort of content. JoBlo was created by movie fans for movie fans, and we appreciate your support.